In our November-December 2011 issue of McCall's Quilting, we show a beautiful little stocking that is embellished with a yo-yo and button trim. And I'm going to show you how to make that yo-yo. So I'm going to show you how to make these yo-yos. And we start with a template that appears in the magazine. The larger circle is the size you're going to cut your fabric. So I just took some template plastic I had lying around and traced it and cut out my circle. And then this circle goes on the back of my fabric here. As you can see, I've started to trace. You can use a pen, whatever you mark with, it doesn't matter. It's going to be hidden when you turn that edge under, so it doesn't matter if that ink shows. And then I just cut out my circle like this, and there's my fabric circle. Now, to make it easier to iron that 1/4 of an inch over, what I'm going to do is come back to this template that was in the magazine, and I'm going to trace the inside circle here that gives that 1/4 inch seam onto some this is Mylar template plastic. It's heat resistant. So what I did was trace it and cut out a circle that size. That way, when I press the fabric over the edge of this template, that's going to give me that nice 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's a lot easier than just trying to turn it under. You can also use cardboard or whatever material you have around, just something that won't melt. So here's my little Mylar template. I've placed it right there on my fabric. I'm going to make sure that I've got that 1/4 inch fabric all the way around. Do you see that? And I'm just going to hold it there. I'm going to use my iron to just sort of gently push the edge over a little, coming in point to point like that, so that it doesn't get, you know, you get those crinkly, crunchy bits. Okay. And I'll just continue in this way until I have the whole thing turned under, like this one here. Well, here's a tip. One thing I didn't think to tell you. Do not starch this before you start using it. Don't starch your fabric, because when you draw this up, you want this to be able to gather. And if you've starched it, you're going to have a really hard time. It'll have more wrinkles than ruffles, than gathers. Okay, so here's the one that I've already pressed all the way up around. And what I need to do is stitch about 1/8 of an inch inside that fold all the way around. And here's another really helpful tip. This is a heavy-duty thread. You're going to want either a heavy-duty thread, a button thread. If you use you can use a regular sewing thread, but as you draw it up, you're going to run into a problem with it possibly breaking, and that's pretty sad when you got all that stitching in. So here we go. I've got my thread ready to go, and I'm just going to start taking stitches, running stitches, about 1/8 of an inch in from that edge. And you can load your needle. You don't have to do these one at a time. Like this. And I'm just going to go all the way around the circle like that. See how I pulled that through? There we go. And I will do that all the way around the circle. And I happen to have one here, through the magic of video, that's already stitched around. And this is where you get your yo-yo. You start pulling this up. Again, a button thread or a heavy-duty thread. If you do it with regular thread, you could be most unhappy when your thread breaks. So I'm just going to work that around, get rid of my needle. Okay, here we go. You see, I'm just drawing that up, pulling that up. Look at how fast that became a little yo-yo. Look at that. Isn't that fabulous? Okay, so I'm going to work that and get it flat. I'm going to bring a needle back. That's my iron beeping at us. Okay. It doesn't matter if you use a big needle either, because these holes aren't going to be seen. There. So I've got my needle. I've pulled those up like that, nice and tight, and I'm going to just take a few back stitches. It's going to hold that thread and keep your drawn up circle nice and tight. There we go. And then a little back stitch. So back stitch is where you come up behind where you came up before, hence the name. And I'm just going to pull that again. So it's all drawn up. There we go. Okay, a few more little stitches. Just my iron has decided to turn off. Okay, just a few little stitches like that, and it doesn't matter what they look like, because when this is all done, I'm just going to cut that off. Now I know those stitches aren't very pretty, but they're going to be covered by a button, just like this button here. And just pop that button on, sew it down, and it's going to hold your yo-yo. See this button here? Just pop the yo-yo in place, put your button on, and the button, when you stitch that button in place, it'll hold the yo-yo down as well. Of course, I use black thread so you could see it. You'll be using white thread, and if any of it shows, it won't matter. So that's how you make a yo-yo. It's really simple and really easy. I hope you have a lot of fun.